At this point, very importantly, this is one of the highlights of today's colloquium, the keynote address, which is to be presented by our own architect, Professor Evelyn L.A. Allu Kangkum. Sustainable architectural design, practical strategies for innovative development. Please, can we put our hands together as she presents her keynote address to this very strategic and excellent colloquium holding in Jos, Plateau State, Nigeria.
Good morning, everyone. Now that I know that our Vice Chancellor has a new title, the Vice Chancellor, Sir, Your Excellency. Good morning. Good morning to our Dean, Professor Backlit. Good morning to all professors well-seated, HODs, students, and well-wishers, especially speakers that are coming in from outside the University of Jos. We want to specially welcome you here today. We are reimagining something, particularly in architecture. We start from the pre-design to the design. So those are the issues I'll be looking at, particularly with reference to design, things that we can do to re-image what we have been doing and to incorporate current trends for innovations. So this is our topic. Let's have the next slide. Next slide, please. Anyway. So we'll be looking at things that will help us to re-image architecture as far as design is concerned. And we're going to be looking at how we'll strategize. We're going to look at how we'll allow sustainability be the driver of our architectural design so that we'll be able to have innovative development in all that we do as far as architecture is concerned. So basically, in sustainable architecture, you have key areas we look at. We look at sustainable energy. Whatever you're doing, you ensure that there's sustainable energy in terms of energy efficiency, and we also have material resource, those materials that will not add to our problems. We also talk about things like renewable energy. We talk about water resource and conservation, sustainable materials. Those are the key areas we look at when we're thinking of sustainable architecture. And with sustainable architecture, we'll be able to drive the dream that whatever we do, it should be sustainable. So we'll be able to key into not just the 17 goals of sustainable development goals, not only, but beyond that. And we go into well-being, livelihood, connecting with nature in biophilics, and things like that. So those are the kind of things we're going to look at. And then we look at the materials that will help us to conserve energy and to have sustainable structures in place that will, in fact, key in between the human existence, our buildings, and our environment, and the social stratas that are within our context. I don't know what's happening to the slides. Yeah, okay. Just let me use my system then. Sorry about that. I'd made my submissions weeks ago, and I repeated the same this morning. I don't know what's happening. Because it will be good for you to follow the slides, because I have pictures to tell you that these things are doable, are workable. There are materials that we could use. In fact, there are materials that are so malleable that, you know, the traditional setting of us, especially in the tropics and especially in the savanna zone, who usually have the circular structures. There are materials that we have now that we can achieve that. And so we have the natural settings and things like that. So let's move on, please. Yeah, so by way of introduction, we're saying, well, it all began more seriously in the 70s when we had the negative impact of climate change, and of course, it increases all the negative effects on the environment, and of course, in architecture, because we have structures that are in place, and in the construction sector in general, and those contributed to having these problems that we're having. And the answer now is in sustainable solutions. So it's no longer business as usual. So that's why we're looking at sustainable architecture as the way for the future. Next slide, please. So we said sustainable architecture is now what is the in thing. That is what's going on as far as construction is concerned, to be able to proffer strategies and solutions towards sustainable architecture. Next slide, please. Now, we're looking at the sustainable development goals. There are 17 of them, and we're saying with architecture, sorry, the slides are not looking very sharp, but with architecture, we'll be able to solve these problems, because when we have sustainable buildings, we'll be able to solve health problems, well-being, human well-being, because the building will relate to what the requirements for humans are in terms of ventilation, in terms of air, in terms of lighting for walking and things like that. And you'll be able to have the environment that are nature-based. When you have nature-based environment, you have vegetations planted all around the buildings. They help even in air circulation. They proffer buffers to buildings where we have storms and things like that. But when you plan and have sustainable consciousness, when you are designing not just the building, but the environment, you'll be able to achieve that. And you'll be able to also have natural zero carbon electricity when you harvest the sunlight, to be able to use it within your building to function, and other functions that will run in the building. So those are the kind of things we look at. So for every goal, sustainable architecture is able to address and strategize and provide solutions. So those things are doable. Next slide, please. So this is just to show us example of what a sustainable building can do. Like I said earlier, it harvests the sunlight, it harvests rainfall to stop wastages. You recycle this water, you have environments that are well planned, and then they are green. We also have buffers, all provided for because you, in your consciousness during design, you are able to think of sustainability, all the decisions you are taking. Next slide, please. So we said one of the things you look at is the energy efficiency and renewable energy. So if you are thinking this while designing, you'll be able to provide the strategies through usage of things like the solar and wind energy, which you harvest, and then, of course, to provide clean energy so that you reduce the reliance on non-renewable resources. And, of course, what are the innovations? Okay, you have energy-efficient appliances. You have lighting, cooling systems, and other allowances that are using low consumption of carbon. And of course, they will emit less carbon into the atmosphere. So that gives us a cleaner environment to live in. Next slide, please. So we said innovations are, come out of this. And, when we think of them at the stage of our drawings, we're able to assess the environment, we're able to assess the requirements, we're able to impute the data. Then we need building information modeling. That's what's in now, and it's part, and it will form an integral part of our sustainable design, and of course, construction, and that will help us to have efficient construction development, infrastructure, and whatever you have. Thank you. Next slide. So, eco-friendly building materials. So when we are considering our materials during our construction or during design, when you are specifying, when you know that we have materials that are eco-friendly, you'll be able to make provisions for that. And so you even reduce and you provide recycling. Thank you. Recycling. And so you help materials such as recycled materials so that you minimize waste and reduce carbon footprint. And therefore, the innovation therein will be that you have local materials within us. In Nigeria, we have like the bamboo, they help in insulations. Of course, the 3D printing, which is ongoing now. And then you'll be able to have a cost efficiency, resilience, and of course, quality will be improved in your design, the capacity, and other technologies. Now, when we are thinking of other technologies, there's what we call the fiberglass reinforced concrete, which we use in our construction, especially in structures that are quite large. And of course, we talk about the materials like mycelium, which is sourced from fungi. And it's a network of tissue from fungi that you could grow even in labs, even in the backyard, and then harvest it and use it for construction. I wish these pictures are clearer. So you see, especially this circular one, it's so malleable that you can fold, you can change position of your structure. Okay, it's looking too tall today, I want it to tilt. You could achieve that if you use such materials. And of course, we also use materials like the hempcrete, which is mostly of lime, and it is very good for acoustic. As we can hear us in this hall, the acoustic is not very sound. But when we use such materials, not only will you have a sound, but you have healthy environment, you have clear audio receptions, and they are affordable. Usually, maybe at the beginning, you may think they are expensive, but over time, you discover that they are cost-effective and they are affordable and environmental friendly. Next slide. So, climate resilient design. So when we look at climate resilient design, we say we take the advantage of design strategies, so that passive design, which is fairly common that you're looking at servicing a hall like this instead of using the fan. Of course, you allow passive, you allow air, you provide openings at the top where hot air easily goes off and the cooler air remains within, depending on what you want to achieve at what time of the day. Because if it is in the morning, you want it a little warm, and during the day, you want it a little cool, so that you'll be able to adjust to the solutions that you need. And so these are usually nature-based, so like integrating green roofs, to help, and then rain gardens, usually at the top of your roofs, to improve air quality and provide less waste, harness what you get from nature and improve your living. So you kind of add value to your properties, smart buildings, technology, green building certifications. We're not so much into certifications, and it's not helping. We're able to where every material that you use your structure certified, then you discover that we'll be able to fight quackery if we're able to do that, because you will not even take your drawings or your design or whatever to any place without it being certified. And countries that are well developed, that are into certification, you cannot do such things in Canada, Australia, because every aspect of the structures, even light bulbs that you fit in, must be certified to a level that it provides for that structure. Next slide, please. So what we're saying that whatever you do, you need to get, whatever you do, data information is very important. And if data information is very important, it means that we need to be all inclusive in a community. Sometimes you see community meetings where only old people meet. And then they decide on certain things. And you kind of build a structure and you discover that only old people come there. The young people are not there. Or you have a community meeting where only the young people are there. And they will tell you that, well, Yarani is for children. So we are not part of it because it doesn't address whatever needs that they have. And then you go to communities, especially communities like University of Jos. You go to most of these lecture halls, and you discover that the ramps are usually afterthoughts. They are not part of the design. Or you are climbing a step, and you discover that they have different height levels. So, and you're used to a building that has, well-defined, standardized risers and treads. You know that you don't have to look at the steps, you just move. You try it here, I'm sure your teeth, you lose one teeth. So inclusiveness in design is very important, that every member of the community should be involved, should be engaged, whether he has disability or not, so that we are all carried along. When we are going at equality, any facility within the university. Thank you. Next. So water conservation. So you can use your gray water within the house. You can use it as sprinklers for your garden. So you keep recycling even the water from the toilets. You recycle them. They serve as fertilizers to your crop, things like that. Those are the kind of that we have. We have smart irrigation sensors. Once you have something that is innovative, you discover that it is not in itself innovative. It will also create other innovations. Because if you are thinking of sprinklers, somebody will say, oh, what about sensors? Do we just use them? Maybe we can regulate at what time of the day will we have and what amount of water do we need at a particular time of the day. So those are the kind of innovations that are derived for such things. Yes, next slide. we're thinking of how we align ourselves with nature. And we have this flow, we have the connections, like when we were students, architect Amos Egunte will say, you have that mental connection. So that is what biophilic is all about, and you incorporate plants, you incorporate the outside to the inside to be able to have that impact on your health and well-being. Next slide. So what do? We also engage adaptive reuse of materials, so they're not in waste, okay? You transform buildings from what other old functions or uses they have, and you preserve culture, and of course you make spaces to be adaptable. Like in this theater, we have fixed chairs. So this theater is not likely going to be adaptive to other uses, except a setting that fits this sitting arrangement. So innovations are usually, we have fabrications and modular construction. In modular construction, you have being built elsewhere and then assembled in one place to your needs and requirements. Next. So, and capacity building. Just like we're here today, we need to talk about what is required, what should be done, what are those things that are important and necessary to be done. And then, of course, we don't train our students because we want them to practice architecture in Nigeria. We train students so that they can be ambassadors wherever they are in the world. Because whatever they are learning shouldn't be just good for us or good enough for us. We have to do the context of other contexts should be included, not just the maybe African or the Nigerian context, but that a student can go elsewhere and continue his program without feeling disadvantaged because of the training that he has had, the internationalization of our education curriculum and things like that. So we have to upgrade our curriculum to suit what is necessary, to suit entrepreneurial skills and things like that. Mentorship, very important in our studios. That's why we encourage that students also have engaging and interacting times with their studio mentors. Next. So, this is all that we're talking about. We say we need materials that are sustainable, energy awareness, innovation, sustainability, energy from solar and all that. And I think that wraps it up. Next slide, please. So, this is what we're saying. The innovations are doable, they are important, they are necessary. Without innovations, you will not move ahead. And this is what drives education. If it is not innovative, it wouldn't drive. And then, of course, the challenges, therefore, is to address those environmental challenges that we have, whether they are socially, they are economically, people-oriented, or economic concerns. So those are what sustainable architecture is able to do, to address such things, and so that we can have innovation. So we won't sit and be hearing innovations happening elsewhere in the world when we're just doing book work, cramming, and things like that. In our education, in our training, in our sustainable architecture, we should be able to be innovative in our learning and in our strategies, in our designs, in our practices, and all that we do. Next slide. Thank you.
Please, can we put our hands together? Ma, God bless you. That was like an inaugural lecture, part 2. Rasmatas, what the Midas touch. Thank you. Please, can you put your hands together once again for her? We thank you for keynote address given at the Architects Resourcery International Colloquium for Architects in Academia, Practice, and Students. This particular session will come to a close, but there's going to be a group photograph with the Vice Chancellor outside. The chair will want to say something, ma'am? Lead on how the photographs are going to take place. Once again, Ola Adisa.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dankias. Actually, it's continuing, but we know that the VC is very busy. We want to give him an opportunity to go and do some other things. We would like to take some group photographs outside with the invited guests, the keynote speakers, and Obese Nachibi Msuwe. So I just saw Professor Uji just come in, and we'll take some pictures with the Vice Chancellor. I wish I could say we could take some in the hall so that the students could be a part of it, but I don't know the logistics of that. And then we will continue. There's actually a chair of this session in person of Architect Professor S.T. Adamu, and we will take questions because I personally have some questions about this presentation. But to release our gracious chief host, we will take a pause here, and then we will take pictures. If you can't take picture with the VC, his picture is in that big flex, so you can go out there, students, after this, and you can stand or you can squat at whatever level the VC said is, so you just tell everybody that you took photographs with the VC. So on that note, please, shall we go out? And include the HODs and other professors here. Thank you. And the members of the LOC. Architect Ella, Architect Alice.
All the lecturers should go. Yes. All lecturers. If you applied to lecture in the university, you can go out and snap. By faith. See, this guy is coming. Do we have students from fine arts here? Students from fine arts? Only you. Sir, I saw names outside. I'm seeing name inside. Ella, I'll stand behind you.